Okay, so we're back, you guys. We talked about everything from. Oh, and by the way, I told Ryan I'm pretty sure that halfway through the first part we had an audio difficulty. So if it goes from crisper and clearer to a little bit more echoey, we hope you guys rock with us. So anyway, we're back.
There's only like 10 people watching anyway, so.
Or 11.
You're the most important.
Yeah, those were the
criticals.
So we talked about it from enthusiast perspective, builders, JDM heads, Honda guys, etc., right? Objectively, and then a little bit specifically as a judge, right? With capital J, official sport compact import tuner luxury exotic judge. Okay, now I want to get into it from us on a very direct path as media. It really ties into the first part. I get to appreciate the culture and capture it. The thing that's really cool about the powers that be at SEMA is they don't try to curate or micromanage in that sense. It's like, we follow your account, Big Mike. We have seen your builds. It would be great if you could just pretty much do what you do and share it. And that part's really cool, right? Because it shows that even amongst this like corporate type setting, there are the people that see and appreciate. Because if they were like, hey, can you go cover all the lifted trucks on Wednesday from like 10 to 4, I'd be like, sure, but it would be weird because the people who follow us and me don't really follow those types of builds. But they don't do that, right? So I get to support the general import culture, Honda, Japanese, etc. And then, to tie into Ryan and his builds as Ryan's friend, right? So you have the business side, the media side, and then the friendship side, where he's been an integral part of my builds that have been as applicants and competitors and entrants. And then now I got to sit back as a friend and see him under his business, but also his personal passion in these two builds. So I'll step aside in that regard and then just say, Ryan, let's kind of get into that, right? So real quick, shameless, shameful plug is I'm gonna film with Ryan for my channel, relatively technical overviews that cover the things that only kind of got scratched on. All these interviews during SEMA, and yes, you were able to go technical, but there's only so much time. Yeah. So you're like scratching the surface of the surface.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do overviews of each of these builds as I do on my behind the scenes series to give you guys a more technical overview with details, but then of each specific system. Why this system, why this cooling system, why this suspension system, why was it wired as such, what did you learn? Ryan's going to break that down for you technically for each section of each build on his channel. So that's another way that I support him and each other. So, Car Talk, we cover it as a whole, but then behind the scenes, my channel, and then the real technical stuff, the Rywire YouTube channel. And those will be out soon, okay? So now, with that plug being there, Ryan, how was it for you to bring two builds, similar yet also very different, right? In as much as a businessman and a creative and a builder. Let's kind of, that could be an hour episode by itself, but let's kind of give people a glimpse into what it was like for you as a business and as a creative and as a builder bringing two builds to see.
Yeah, so let's see. For the business side of things, I have a great staff that is able to do a lot, during the day. So I kind of thought in my head, like, I'll probably be able to do Rywire work for maybe 5 hours and then get away for another 8 hours per day to be able to just do these cars. But what it ended up kind of turning into is like 8 or 9 months of maybe working on Rywire stuff for like an hour or so.
Okay.
Only if I'm needed. And then like working on cars for 12 hours a day.
Right.
And a lot of people probably they would assume maybe that I have like my guys working on the cars, but I do have outsourcing things that I'm doing. Whether it be using Chris Eimer for certain fabrication, or maybe certain guys for designing certain things. Like I know Track Tough designed my little reservoirs, and I was starting to CAD it, and then I'm like, this isn't really. I'm gonna rely on him anyway for the finishing weldings and stuff. So maybe I just build the whole thing.
Okay.
Right. So I was outsourcing things.
Sure.
Paint got outsourced, but it was still like a lot of brain usage too. Like to build a proper car, as you know, when we were doing like, you know, your various Prelude builds and stuff, it's like you kind of need to just like look at things for like hours at a time because everybody says like in these two builds, their number one thing was, God, it looks really simple. And I'm like, yeah, but you know how hard it was?
Yeah.
To make
the
it look
amount
so
of
simple.
time it takes to map something to make it look like that was the natural, easy route.
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
And there was times where I built an AC line, and like the one line probably cost like $80 or something, right? It's just something like that. And then I'm like, if I went longer, it would have been able to flow, and I would have been able to go like the back way in, and then it would have just looked cleaner.
Yeah. So
And
you
I'm
rebuild
like,
another one.
Order another one.
Yeah, yep.
You know, and then it's just like, $80 worth of materials or whatever it is. Like, I'm so glad I did that though.
Right.
But so there's a lot of that. Like if I was in a rush, it was last minute, and I had to just throw it together. All those properly executed things would have looked kind of sloppy. So,
and when you do a car from the ground up that's going to have fresh paint as an entire chassis, you basically build the car, you go through all that process to build the car once, as in basically it's literally completed, and then you're like, all right, am I happy with it? Does everything, when it's all put together, flow figuratively and literally? Do I have continuity? Does the plumbing work? Is it all going to be serviceable and all these things? And then if and when you even say yes, when it's physically installed, then you take the entire thing apart and then send things off to their proper coatings and platings.
Yeah.
And then you know how you would think that it just goes back together?
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
Yeah.
And so, with this, EV builds, right? I think a lot of people don't understand, innocently, that you had to literally immerse and geek out on things that you had only heard of, just like all of us.
Yeah, no,
Tesla this,
really learning things like in the moment,
and you immersed yourself in it to even feel remotely safe, even trying.
Right. So that was really stressful. It was a long job. I was months and months and months of time, and then even like getting them done, down to the wire, just days before the show.
Right.
Just quit this.
Let me see.
It's flashing now.
Okay.
Did I
I don't know what you did, but we're gonna
take a break.
I'm gonna just hold this right here.
Wait, do you think I should press it again?
I think you should press it again. New mics.
Oh yeah.
There we are.
Solid now. Probably back. So don't press the little off button switch.
According to this thing I have right here, you're registering strongly. So
nice.
For that.
So back on track here. It never fails. I mean, whether it's painters that literally can't do their jobs right, or it's, whatever the case may be, it's always down to the wire no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
I literally scheduled these out like, I'm going to have the white car done
8 months before. 6 months before.
4 months before.
4 months before.
And then it's going to go to the paint shop, and then that car will already be done. I'm going to be test driving it.
And then 4 days before, you're like, hey, can I get back my car?
Yeah, exactly.
So 4 days.
So then it's like, then you tell these I'm not going to put blame on anything, but the people that maybe are holding up the process, like, you don't understand. Like, I haven't the car hasn't moved yet. I have to probably spend a week just programming stuff.
Yeah.
And then now you're gonna give me a day to do it. So anyway, I was able to get, with help from like Sam from ADM, for example, the cars moved and drove, and they actually drove like quite decently.
Yeah.
Which was a huge thing. That was awesome. I didn't want to bring a car that
for the people that say, did they even run, there's video on
both
my IG,
both of them
his and the CSFs and Toyos probably, but I specifically put up IG stories helping Ryan just as a friend with like moving stuff during teardown.
Yeah.
Of him driving him.
And I even drove that from the hotel.
Yeah.
In Vegas.
Did when you were doing setup, I remember when you did that, did anyone catch it? Was there, during loading, were there other people? Did anyone see it?
My wife was filming when we were driving.
Okay, so
But
from
I was
the
actually
hotel.
like kind of stressed out, so I was like cussing a lot.
We'll have to put trending audio over that then. Make a reel out of that. But I mean,
and I was like,
but yeah, so like, okay, so you guys.
but I want to say that the logistics
Yeah.
was a nightmare. Okay, so I probably should have just had both cars transported with a proper transporter, but it was $1,400 for one, or $1,450 for one car. I was
One
like,
car
oh my God.
one way or round trip?
Round trip.
Round trip.
That's
Yeah.
not bad, but I'll, in hindsight, I probably should have just done both. But it's like, I was like, oh, I have a trailer, so I'll just tow one.
Yeah,
And then I'll transport the other one. And then guess what happens? It's like, oh, well, you got to be there for the loading,
Yes.
and then you got to transport a car, and then you got to be there for the unloading,
For the
and then you got to be two places at once.
because you're a judge.
Oh, and then the whole judge thing, that was crazy. So I
So
had to
two
literally-
cars and the schedule for judging, and it was a debacle, right?
And that's the reason why I drove the white car from the hotel.
From the hotel.
It's not like, because it's so reliable.
Yeah.
It was like a butt puckering. I hope it, that I actually don't have tags on it right now. So, it shouldn't have drove it, but I literally had to because the trailers were like parked away, and then there wasn't actually enough time for me and Jeremiah, because Jeremiah, the other off-road judge, was literally in the same predicament as me. We had to ask Stan, hey, can we stage our cars an hour early just so we can get there? And then we immediately had a full day of work for Battle of the Builders.
Right.
So the real reason why I drove it, I'm glad I did, because I got to prove some development and stuff before SEMA, which was great.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to hurt the car. I didn't want to break anything.
Sure.
So that's why I was really reluctant to be driving it around a lot. Anyway,
But you got it there.
logistically it worked out. But yeah, and then even on the way back, I ended up just not doing that Toyo Tires shoot because I needed to be back to receive the car. So I ended up going to the Auto Fashion meet instead. And
Yeah.
that was because, I got home a little early. I got the car back from the transport company, and then I took it down to San Diego.
So, okay. As a builder who decided to take two of the most beloved, you're a Honda guy. Started off as a CRX guy. Obviously, you love all kinds of Hondas.
Yeah.
The EG and EK are obviously amongst the two most beloved chassis in DC2s. But, your CRX and Super Street, that's kind of the car you cut your teeth on. And then now you have an EG and an EK that, for example, you did spoon brakes and spoon wheels, and then on the other one, classic TE stickers on newer school TEs, but you got the concave face. My point is that any Honda guy would easily do a Milano red EK on spoons and a white EG on, any of the wheels you had, but here in this case, black TEs. Cars look timeless. Cars look great, and they're EV. And you and I kind of are used to people naysaying some stuff we do, or all the stuff we do. And so we kind of went into it talking about it like, dude, I remember a time that, I don't remember if it was a text or a call, hell, it might have been in person, but you literally looked at me, and this, by the way, this story I'm telling is when he was already knee and balls deep into this. And there was no going back anyway. But you looked at me just kind of offhandedly one day when I was here, and you were like, dude, do you think I'm wasting my time with these DP things? And it was, I thought it was actually a really pure question, because he couldn't go back, even if I said, you know what, Ryan, I haven't been wanting to say that to you, but I kind of do think that you're just not, you're immersing yourself in something that's going to get you nowhere. That's obviously an arguable point. Nowhere is that figurative, is that philosophical, is it monetary? But even if I had said
monetary, yeah, definitely.
Even if I had said that, it was already too late. But you're talking about someone who jumped straight in, immersed himself. This is as an observer and a friend, just watching, and then in the middle of it, like, has the innocence to look over and be like, dude, am I wasting my time? And I was like, no, you're not, because at a bare minimum, you are exercising creativity, innovation, practicing, pushing yourself, pushing boundaries. What we happen to live in a state that it sort of coincides, that the whole EV thing, and it's crazy how people politicize the hell out of that.
Yeah.
Like the stuff, like the hate that he's gotten isn't even almost about the cars anymore. It's some weird political broad umbrella weirdness that people do.
Yeah, I got like comments. This was one comment that like it says something about like, oh, we know who's a Kamala supporter, right? And then whether I am or I'm not, it doesn't even matter. But like, I was like, oh, that's one random person saying that, and then there was like 45 likes after that. So I was like, oh, that just validated that is what people.
Yeah, there's the people who didn't
like,
have the gumption to say it themselves,
right?
But they like it when someone else does. And so, you know, there's a lot of craziness.
Wow.
But I mean, and the politicizing of it is crazy. But it's like, you know, you took quintessential beloved '90s chassis, did them in beautifully executed in the style that, you know, we would like.
I think most Honda guys would.
Very much so, right? It could be a K, it could be a B, it could be an H2B. Any one of these could be anything that we all would have done, would still do, and you went EV, flagship style, dual motor, all wheel, and then smaller drive unit front wheel. One's the basis for a kit that is potentially going to be available sooner than later. And the other one was just kind of, I want to go and see what I can do. So how was the overall reception from the automotive, Euro, American, hot rod, restoration, resto mod, JDM, you name it? How was the overall reception to the builds in the context of SEMA?
Good.
Yeah?
Really good. Yeah, really good. I mean, if people were haters, they didn't tell me about it. I was like, you know, a lot of people don't maybe know who I am standing, if I am standing near the car or around the car, or whatever. And I had some people go like, you know, oh, like, you know, yeah, like excited, and then, oh, it's EV, you know?
Right.
I heard that a few times.
Sure.
But like,
it's inevitable.
Yeah, that's inevitable, but like, for the most part, you know, the 99.9% of the people were like all about it.
Wow.
They were super about it. You know, they kind of like everybody kind of asked like, oh, well, it's really cool, but what's the weight? You know, oh, no, but what's the range? And then I was pretty much directing people to the other cars every time. So it was interesting. If I buy the white car, it has a small range battery pack. It's a kit that that's the direction of the kit. People ask me, what kind of power does this make? And then I'll say, well, it's like, 300 horsepower approximately, but the other one's 600. Oh. And then I'll be at the white car. Oh, what's the range like? Oh, well, the range is it's going to be around maybe like 70 if I'm lucky. But the other car is closer to like, if I'm lucky, like closer to 400.
Okay.
Oh, wow. And then when I'm at the red car, it's like, is this going to be a kit?
Oh, so it can't.
No,
like
it's not, because this car.
Well, it would be way too much.
It would be too much money.
Chop your car up.
You'd be chopping your car up like crazy, and people don't really want to do that. For them, I mean, there will be people that will want to do that, but for the most part, 98% of people aren't going to want to do that. So it was just back and forth. When I'm at one car, I kind of talk about the other, which was perfect though. Because then I gave the opportunity to lead in, hey, you need to go check out the other car. Some people, dude, I have good friends that thought it was just one car that I painted. It was white and then I painted it red. So there was a lot of good buddies that just completely missed the whole thing, which is fine.
It's fine, but how is that possible? As a Honda guy,
Vin, how did you do that?
They're not the same chassis. They don't look the same. Who does a brand new paint job and then says, hey, let's just repaint the brand new paint job with another brand new color change?
Yeah.
But anyway, it was Vin? That's what
I'm trying.
Okay, but anyways, okay.
Well, that was what a few people did that actually.
Okay, so here's my question, right? Let's put them against each other. You're talking about how someone's like, is the red one a kid, and what's the range on this one? You had to keep going back and forth. Okay. Was there one of the two, for reasons that you understand or don't understand, that was received better than the other?
I mean, I think that the white car was actually received a little bit better.
Interesting.
I think. I mean, it may be like the same, but then in my head, that's higher than I thought it would be.
Okay.
And I wanted that to happen.
Okay.
Because I think the execution and just like the cleanliness and the timeliness of the white car, but like the red car's red, right? So you'd think just the nature of it, like white cars are just gonna not be as popular as like a bright red
Something
car.
that's brighter, okay. But yet
I feel like that more eyes kind of gravitated towards the white car, or it was because of the location, because the tread pass is just so massive with the amount of
the foot traffic,
the walk through traffic, that maybe some people just didn't even like get to see the red car or go out, quote unquote, out of their way.
That's interesting to me.
Even though the CSF booth is a massive booth, it's right by turn 4.
Yeah, beautiful location. I mean, okay, so as far as socials, one of the reels I did on this car was at like 50,000 and just stopped. The first one I did of that car, 100,000 plus. The second one, 80,000 plus. That car, Milano red, we all call it Milano pink after a while, but if we kind of forgot how crisp and bright it is. And then with shout out to Mitchell from Technique Details, who, I don't know, 100 hours on both cars, 70 maybe on the white one. And anyway, I mean, they were good. The red one was good, and then he just made it better. And the white one, he turned it into what you see now. And, you know, from an aesthetic perspective, that white background and then the carpet, there's all these shades of white, and I was like, that's gonna really clash on the EG. And it absolutely clashed, and then had no effect. People loved it anyways.
Yeah, true.
Loved it anyways. And it kind of was cool. You got the white and the weird shade of white, and your car's white.
Blue Toyo.
But the blue Toyo stripe tied it. It tied in.
Worked.
And then the CSF has some red in it, but for the most part, turn 14's blue. There was like nothing really around, and the red car it just glowed to me. It was right in front of those doors of Central Hall that go right outside to like Silver Lot. So you have sunlight. You got all the sunlight, and the front of this car was glowing, man. Shout out to Ravi and CSF, the location, the team, and seeing you as your friend have two builds in two prime locations, whatever power plant, was already cool.
Yeah.
But then the controversial side, the ingenious, innovative side of things, I was really, really happy. Like we talked about this at SEMA when you finally had downtime. Was
with Downstar?
Downtime with Downstar? Shout out to Frank. Is how surprisingly there was a substantially lesser amount of hatred, as we called it, than either of us was expecting. I was expecting a lot of maybe, I don't know, an older hot rod guy, and then it jumps all the way to the younger JDM guy. They would be the ones that are like, what the fuck? And yet, there wasn't really that many of those, which is amazing.
If people felt that way, they definitely didn't express that, and they definitely didn't. They kept this to themselves, which like online people don't keep it to themselves,
right?
Or maybe they were just kind of taken back when they see it in person and they go, oh crap, this is actually really nice. Like a lot of people were like, dude, this is so well executed. How did you do this?
It's the
like
packaging.
How did you find the rubbers? How did you find how was the whole car look brand new?
So yeah, your packaging, fit and finish, packaging and execution. So sounds kind of obvious, but yet there are people who do builds all the time. Their fit, finish, packaging and execution is lacking in some way or another. So the EG, for example, you guys, we could be on these cars forever, so we'll kind of like wind it down. But the EG is a full chassis restoration. And remember, it's a no-cut kit. So if he did H2B, if he did K24 all-wheel drive, if he did whatever, right, whatever power plant, you still wanted a restored EG chassis.
Yeah.
So he bought almost any, I think there's only 2 moldings on the whole thing you couldn't find. So UK, Japan, or somewhere bought all the moldings brand new, paint job
I think more.
with paint correction, and timeless wheels. Kept it 4x100. You can put anything and everything on there. So if one day, a year from now, 5, 10 years, Ryan's like, I'm gonna go K or L15 built or R18 or whatever, you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
The EK, on the other hand, can't. The whole floor is now batteries. But once again, Honda color, exceed lit, spoons, 5 lug, the amount of wheels you could put on that. So the packaging, you went JDM, you went clean, you went timeless. You can't really look at either one of these cars. It's not like you went with a VL side wide body or something. It's where it can have an ebb and flow if it fits. It's just crisp and clean. And then, the engine bay packaging and execution. Aside from being able to teach someone how and why you have air conditioning, how and why there's even a radiator. Because there's a lot of people who don't even still understand why you need water. They don't, and this is one of the ways that in our videos that we're going to do, Ryan will be able to break down the simplicity of the necessity of how you need cooling. Just because it isn't a combustion engine doesn't mean it doesn't get hot, and it needs a water exchange. It needs a radiator. So, I think there's so much to technically get into, which we'll do that as Brian breaks down these systems. But as your friend and as another builder, and then watching it happen and seeing you kind of have to go back and forth and explain the same thing over and over, yet you're touching on something that no one else had done yet in our space. And I mean, if you're able to be objective, if you're able to kind of step back and be like, okay, yes, let me try my best to answer this objectively without sounding one way or the other. Are the goals, I mean, you're not done yet, of course, but are the goals that you set out to accomplish with one and or both of the cars, did you accomplish them?
The goals for SEMA, yes, they were accomplished.
Okay.
I wanted running cars for SEMA.
I wanted running cars for SEMA.
Mm-hmm. And I also wanted fully put together cars for SEMA. And the red car's probably 99.9 of that. And then the white car's 100%.
What about some things a little bit more figurative, philosophical, pushing the envelope, pushing your name and that
my political narratives?
Not political narratives, but the idea of being, a consultation shop. It's like Rywire Consulting now, and opportunity to continue to show now on personal builds that whether popular or not, whether lucrative or not, you're down to push your personal self.
Yeah.
The boundaries of what tuning and building is like, especially inside of our space. Are you happy with the reception from the culture?
Yeah.
And even if people hated it, would you not care?
No, I think it's fine. This year, I think one of the main things that I kind of got and heard multiple times at SEMA was that my name and branding is highly respected in the industry. And I heard that multiple times, and I thought that was really cool because it's not, we're highly respected, and then that means that people have trust in us, and that knowing that our brand isn't going to go anywhere, and then we're always kind of pushing forward. So I heard that a lot. I think that was really good. That was something that kind of was thrown off or kind of taken back by a little bit, which is cool. And then but just driving home that both of the cars were working, functional. People were couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
It did everything that I think I wanted. I mean, it would have been cool to get a little bit more of the random people doing clickbait videos just to get the circulation more on social media. But other than that, I did videos with Larry Chen. He is a really he's probably the top of the volcano, if you want to call it that. for like content creation.
Okay.
And you know, just being able to do a video with him and guys like that, and then having them walk through the car and actually be genuinely like impressed with it, because it would be like even after shooting, like, dude, like this is pretty cool, like, you know, getting that, and then that's off camera. That's not them
Sure.
showing a face and pretending like they think it's cool. They're genuinely thought that the builds were like really well done and intriguing, kind of mind blowing.
And then when that video comes out, the stir from
the stir
their
does pretty
viewership,
well.
and you know,
And a lot of people, like, if you, like, for example, you read comments on that video, and people just speak very highly of me as a builder and my past. And then that, like, helps justify to these younger people that are just like, TV,
Sure.
shit.
You know what's interesting
they go,
about that?
I'm not going to say anything because he's a respected builder. Everybody's saying that he's a respected builder.
The thing that I find interesting about that is on a personal note, you know, you and I have had conversations about branding and doing it the right way or the wrong way, or am I doing it the right way or the wrong way? Is there a right way or a wrong way? And you guys, for a business, how long has Rywire been around?
Since 2005, so 20 years.
You're at 20 years. We're still having conversations. He's still second guessing himself. Am I doing it right? Could I have done this differently, better, worse? What will I do differently next time? I see what works on all those people's styles. I don't want to do that, so you don't. And then you wonder, is this working? And then you get into a context of something like SEMA, where you're hearing other fellow industry staples say to you that your name and your branding is highly respected, and all of a sudden you're just like, I don't know if I did it right or wrong, but that statement there sure as hell makes me feel a whole lot better. And I don't know if I'm ever gonna feel secure, because you know, we're kind of from an older school. We do things a little different.
I don't know if I'll ever be able to sell a T-shirt on my website, but that's okay.
That's another thing. So we have the thing where you got guys, brands, vloggers, bloggers, whatever, right, who can sell 1,000 shirts, and then you have brands like Ryan's, who's respected in these like highest of circles, and if you put a shirt on the site, you'll sell like 4 of them.
Yeah, I'll sell 4 to 4 guys. I already know who they are.
And it's just a weird thing, right? Because who's doing it right and who's doing it wrong, where his name is respected amongst the biggest names in the industry, and then no one will buy a shirt apparently. And then other brands, like if you ask someone what do they do, and they're like, yeah, they make TikTok videos, but that dude makes like 40 racks a month on shirts, and you're just like, one of us is doing this right, and I'm not sure who it is.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the joke that we have. But I mean, but all jokes aside, man, you know, we're here in your shop space. That speaks to you in one light, the 2 builds at SEMA 2024, now a judge for the Battle of the Builders after being a competitor. I'm now media officially after being a competitor. And then as your friend, as a car lover, a supporter of the industry, an appreciator of builds, we get to experience this on such a multifaceted level. There's a lot of work involved, 2 cars, transport logistics, judging, and then having to answer the questions. Man, you guys, I sat back and I watched Ryan go nonstop. Shout out to his wife Yi for having any amount of patience to deal with 9 days.
She's pretty chill.
But then before that, 6 months of you being gone like 14 hours a day or 12 hours a day or whatever.
She'd come on the weekends.
Yeah, and so, you know, so shout out to her. Any one of you guys who's watching this who has a supportive or a not supportive significant other totally gets how major of a role that could be. So a big shout out to Yi. You guys, we can obviously go way deeper, but and you know, and you guys let us know in the comments if you want us to continue on a certain subject or subjects that we touched on in part 1 and part 2 and delve deeper. Let us know. We'll do a SEMA 2024 part 2. But for everyone kind of like, you know, really interested in the specifics of the builds on both my channel and Ryan's channel, we're gonna get into it, where you'll be able to be, you know, educated on the technicalities of the hows and the whys. So on that note, though, we appreciate you guys being back with us. New backdrop, couldn't ask for much more. Red and white hatches, the new builds inside of the Rywire space. And you got anything to say, Ryan?
I'll say that when I finished these cars, Mitchell got them all detailed. I had to go in the bathroom and take a minute and just think about it and like cry a little bit, because it was like pretty crazy. It was like kind of surreal seeing the cars and like having them done. It was pretty wild.
You know what, man? So it takes a real man to just, in this case, on camera, admit that you like shed a tear.
Yeah.
The other time I remember you doing that was on your EA.
Yeah.
The Wonder Civic, right?
Yeah,
Which
same.
a lot of the newer people who've heard, they don't even know about it because he doesn't even post it on his own IG. I'll change that, but he has the Wonder Civic, a white hatch. And I remember that when that thing finally fired up and got going, you like legit had to excuse yourself.
Yeah.
And so, hey, when a man's willing to tell you that, blood, sweat, and then literal, even if it's just one, it's a very manly tear, but in a manly fashion, the tear went down his face. That's real shit, pardon my language. So that's the realness of what it is. This isn't just all for gimmicks or branding. It's, it's love and we're going to continue doing it. So, as your friend, man, big congratulations on the reveals and the debuts at SEMA, and I really look forward to you elaborating and educating this new found niche that I think you are leading the way for the growth of the normalization of it being an option. There will obviously be an entire demographic, probably the high majority by numbers, of people who will never do it. Now, will they learn to appreciate it? Maybe. They'll never do it though. But then there's an up and coming group of people, younger people, who might be like, hey man, I didn't think it was possible, and now we have a way where it's explained and therefore relatable, and that's the order of operations to get to attainable. If someone can relate to it, if someone thinks it makes sense and can be executed well, all of a sudden they'll open their mind to an option. So I think that you're really far ahead of the curve in that sense, and I'm very interested to see and watch the growth for what you and these two builds potentially have started. If not, they had already started, but you have now made it. There's a way for people to decide that, hold on, let's get this refined a little bit, and when Rywire refines it, I'm down to do it. Mm-hmm. So if you guys are one of those people, hate it or love it, are you interested in doing a no-cut kit, e.g. EKDC, and with mount tweakage, CRX, EF, there's, but e.g. EKDC right now, but would you do it? Would you not do it? If it made 600 and you could charge it in 20 minutes and it was under 30, would you do it tomorrow, or would you be like, I don't care, I'm never gonna do it? Seriously, just keep it classy and let us know in the comments. We're super interested to know what you guys think about EVs as a whole, Hondas, golden era Hondas being done that way, and then also SEMA, for those of you that see the content online. Any of these builds or any of the ones we talked about, Datsun Roadster, any of the Euros or whatever, just let us know. And on that note, we will see you guys on the next episode of Car Talk.